by all accounts, our country's broke. There are $15 trillion in debt. We're spending $1.50 for every dollar we take in today. We have some real financial problems at home, and you obviously have a plan to fix it today. Yet this morning we hear that the Federal Reserve has decided to crank up the printing presses and send countless billions of dollars, American dollars, to Europe in an effort to bail out foreign countries. Again. Recently you released information that shows the Federal Reserve has transferred $16 trillion in and out of our major banks to places unknown. That amounts to 5 times what our government is spending on an annual basis. Under the Paul presidency, what would you be doing about sending billions of dollars to other countries? And what would your thoughts on the Federal Reserve going down this path without Congress's approval?
Well, that's the one thing. The people are waking up on this approval business. I mean, this is why we're making progress on auditing the Fed. And even tonight, a few minutes ago, I was watching some of the news and some of the stations that have not been exactly friendly towards some of the things I'm saying. They say, yeah, we need to know more about the Fed. This auditing the Fed is a good idea. And one person said, he said, you know, when TARP came out, it was less than $1 trillion, $900 billion, and everybody thought that was the biggest bailout ever. But he was admitting it was trillions of dollars because he was complaining, you know, how much the Fed can do. Now we need to push the audit of the Fed. We need to find out where we stand. All we need to know about the Fed.
Yeah.
That would be the first major step. Then we have to get the Congress to write the legislation. Congress created the Fed, and they have the authority and responsibility, and they've been negligent on the responsibility because they should have been auditing the Fed a long time ago. But they should, you know, demand that they know more about the Fed, know what's going on. But they also should write a law until the day we get rid of the Fed. But they need to write a law that says that, you know, a certain limit. You know, if they spent $16 trillion, maybe we should tighten up a little bit and say, hey, look, anything over $1 billion, you better get permission from us. You know, something like that, getting some control over this. But
and
also,
the Fed.
Also, that is my goal. The goal of so many now is to end it. But my position isn't that you close the door the first day in office, because there's a lot of, it's sort of like you don't want to close the door on those who become dependent on government. You can have transitions and all this. You can do this in medicine. You can do it in education. You can do it with the Federal Reserve. But you need to be really, really radical. You have to legalize the Constitution.
Yeah! Woo! Yeah!
That means that individuals who would like to use constitutional money, gold and silver coinage, they'd be allowed to. So I have a bill in that would legalize that, legalize private mints, and you know, if you don't like the Federal Reserve, you don't need to use it. You can use real money, and if you think it's a silly idea, you can keep using Federal Reserve notes and get paid in Federal Reserve notes. But that at least would be a transition, because you to go from where we are and adjust to a gold standard, it can't be done overnight, because you have to. The market has to help you figure out the ratio between the paper money and the gold to find out where to fix it. But none of that happens unless the people change their appetite for government. After the Civil War, they were challenged by this. Wartime, just about all governments throughout history don't like the restraints of the gold standard. Gold prevents wars and prevents welfare excesses. So in 1861, they suspended the gold standard, and then the gold price soared up. And then by 1875, they decided, well, we have to go back to the gold standard. And they were just getting around to it, and they had what they called the Restoration Act. It took 3 years. But back then, there was a little bit more confidence in government, and they said, we're not going to print any more greenbacks. We're going to remove some of the greenbacks. We're going to balance the budget. We're not going to spend excessively. And there was no war going on. And the people actually believed them. Today, that would be very difficult, you know, to say, oh, our government is going to, you know, balance the budget next year and bring all the troops home. Of course, That's what we should do. But, so you have to change attitude. If the majority of the American people, I doubt if in this room we have the majority of the American people who want us to be endlessly the policemen of the world. But there's still a lot of people out there. I think the majority of the other candidates certainly think that we should be doing all these things. So we have to have a different attitude, as well as the redistribution of wealth. You know, supposedly the redistribution of wealth is supposed to help the poor people get their houses and things. Well, you know what? Yeah, it was well motivated, and a lot of people did get a house, but who made all the money? The mortgage companies and the derivatives market and the gambling, all that went on. They made a lot of money. Then the crash comes, and the middle class suffers. People lost their jobs and they lost their houses. So we have to change our minds about that. That's not the government's responsibility. And sound money would go along with that. So we can't achieve those goals until we answer the most important question is, what should the role of government be? And the founders asked that question, and they said the role of government that we want is to be very, very limited. We want to get rid of the king. We want it restricted. And you don't go to war unless the people endorse the war through a vote in the Congress. So that really is our challenge that we have, but we're in a good, healthy transition now, because even in the last 4 years, I've been talking about this for a few years, but in the last 4 years, there's something dramatically different, because the American people are waking up. They're not sold on the idea that one party is good and the other one's bad. They're getting the notion that maybe they're not that much different. No matter what you do, you end up with the same thing. Both parties, leadership supports the foreign policy. They support the Federal Reserve. They support the tax structure, maybe with tinker around. They support the welfare state. So there isn't any real difference. But this is why I think the people are realizing the bankruptcy is here, and that is why we're seeing the people on the streets right now. And that, of course, is good in one way, but it could be very bad in another way, because if we don't clean up our act, I think there's going to be a lot of violence, and that's what I work real hard for, is try to avoid the violence and take care of this. We could work our way out of it, but it's going to be touch and go, and to get enough people to agree with some of what we should be doing.
Well, I'm confident you can do that job.